Hi, this is Steve Schmidt, Team Leader and Web Advisor here at Effect. And so, if you are wanting to get more customers out of the visitors that you already have going to the website, this video is going to walk you through how to do that through a very intentional way of optimizing your landing page. And we're not talking about optimization for Google ranking. We're talking about optimizing how many people that see this page actually will contact you. Okay, so this could be for more customers, more form submissions, or really whatever goal that you have. And at this point, you should probably have some kind of goal in mind, and that could be as simple as what do you want more of, or what service or product do you want to sell more of in what area of the country or whatever. So if you don't already have your goal pretty well defined as to which of your audiences you want to do what on your website for what purpose, just go to effectwebagency.com/smart, and this video walks you through how to do that, and you should be able to walk away from that video with your SMART goal defined, which is going to help you put together this landing page and make it effective. The other prerequisite here is that you have an offer or a call to action for your visitor already in mind. You already know what you want them to do or to get or whatever. And we'll talk a little bit more. I guess it's not a total prerequisite. We'll talk a little bit more about that and when we go through the landing page. But if you need help coming up with an offer to give your audience, what I would recommend is go to effectwebagency.com/offer-ideas, and that's going to bring you here. I've got another video there that'll help you walk away from that video with several ideas that you're excited about, hopefully for offers that you can test and see if people like those things and act on them. Okay, so let's get back to optimizing our landing page. Now, whatever way you are sending people to this landing page you're about to create, we just want to, what we don't want to do is just send people to a home page or another general page. Because what happens then is, let's say somebody clicks on an ad you have somewhere about a certain service or a product or whatever it may be. They showed interest in that certain thing or specific category of your business. Now, if they click that and then land on your home page, it's kind of like taking a step back. Oh, okay, well, this is the place that has it, but now I have to figure out where to go to get it again. I have to learn how to use this site. I have to get to know, this company. And sometimes, maybe sometimes that could make sense, but much more often than not, it makes a lot more sense to send people to a landing page that is specific to the thing that they clicked on or the thing that they got in the mail that, whatever that was about. And so if you have an ad or a direct mail thing about service A, then send them to a landing page that has a specifically good offer for service A, and that's going to directly impact how many of those people actually do take action, contact you, or fill out a form or whatever. So there's two questions that we need to ask ourselves before we start this landing page, and these two questions can help us figure out what offer we want to have. But the first one is, who is my specific customer and what need do they have? You're probably thinking, well, duh, but it is funny when we ask ourselves that, how we can think about it more specifically and intentionally. And so if we have an audience that wants to get a specific service, what is the need that they have? The need that they have may be a little bit different from your solution. They may think they need a widget to fix something, but your solution, which you feel is better, may not be that widget. It may be a different widget, or it may be some kind of service or a piece of knowledge, or who knows what. So I guess it's interesting to understand what do they think they need, so we can understand maybe their mindset or their thought process, and then what do we think they need, and to think about that. So once we feel like we know what that is or have some options for it, then we need to ask ourselves, what could I offer them that would begin to help them solve their problem? So you know how it is when you want to buy a piece of software or hire some kind of service provider or something, the default call to action on these websites and other things tends to be, call us or free consultation, which is kind of like the go-to call to action. But as you may have seen from the offer ideas page, there are small steps and there are big steps, and getting somebody to contact you for a free estimate or a free consultation is a big step, because it means that they have to show that this person has to admit they really want it and they have some commitment in terms of time. They're going to be dealing with a human being, which takes a lot more effort than a small step, which might be an instant value thing like using a price calculator or downloading a kit or mailing me samples or getting a piece of downloadable knowledge or something. So decide on what is the right, step or offer, what is the right step that you can help them take at this point in their buying, process. So, and it doesn't mean that you have to figure out what the right offer is the first time. You may have a really good idea and it turns out that it just simply doesn't get the response or whatever. So that's why what we're going to do is test how people respond to your landing page after it's up there, and see how good the response was. And then what you can do is you can try another offer, and you'll get a feel for what works and what doesn't. But what could we offer that would begin to help them solve their problem? Begin to help them solve their problem is more like a smaller step, an easier step for them to take. They don't have to have a buy button on here and purchase it right now, or something like that. We can try to make it as easy as possible for them to take a step towards us, while of course we are helping them. And they're really only going to take a step towards us if they believe that they are getting something valuable that's worth taking that step. Okay, so if you feel like you've got a good idea for your offer, let's move on. Now, landing pages basically follow this kind of format. And so what we've got here are all the important ingredients. And this is not like the perfect, landing page. If you follow this exactly, it's always going to work or whatever. There's always risk, and there's always all kinds of variables in your business versus another one. But these are the main core pieces that if we do follow them, we will have a pretty solid landing page, and we're going to give ourselves a really good, if you look at this, as a scientific test, we're going to have a really good test here. We're going to give people everything they need, or we think we are anyways, to decide whether or not to take a step with us. And so if we put this optimized landing page out there for a few months, we should get some really good data that tells us whether or not people like the offer, or if we should continue with this offer, or how we might change it and test it again. So every landing page needs a headline, and the headline should communicate what will they get if they fill out this form and why it's valuable to them. And that seems like it could be pretty loaded, but let's look at an example. So HubSpot is kind of like the king of landing pages. They have tons of them, and they follow this format really well. there are some things I wish they would change or whatever. But anyways, so let's look at their headline here. It's saying to download it now, the step-by-step guide to lovable marketing campaigns. So let's review our question here again. We want it to say, what will they get if they fill out the form? That's number one. And why is it valuable to them? So let's go back to our example. What will they get if they fill out the form? Well, we know that they will get a downloadable step-by-step guide on how to do this. Well, that's pretty awesome. If it's step-by-step, I mean, that kind of seems like it's a no-brainer. I can step through it. I don't really have to do a lot of studying or do a bunch of other stuff. I can just go step by step. Well, that's pretty valuable, especially coming from a company that does an excellent job at this and is very high up there in the realm of experts for this kind of thing. Now, the second part is, why is it valuable? Because it's going to help me achieve lovable marketing campaigns. And then they have a subheading, learn how to run a holistic marketing campaign. So that's why it's valuable. So it's got both of the elements. And I really like how they start out with this, download now in bold. So you know immediately, I don't even have to wonder if this is like a webinar thing I'm signing up for, if this is something I have to purchase, if this is some kind of consultation. It's none of that stuff. It's just you're going to download it right now. So that puts me in the mindset of, okay, well, I know what I got to do. There's the form. Now what am I going to get? Is it worth me filling out the form? Because that's all I got to do. And so that's how people are going to make that decision, and then they'll get some other info here. So let's go back to our optimal landing page template. So we've got our headline down. Now for text, there's a number of things we could say in the text, and we don't want to say a whole bunch of stuff, really. The amount of text that they have here is actually that's actually a pretty good amount. It's probably more than it really should be, but maybe they have determined that our audience, because they've been doing it for a long time, tends to like more details. They tend to know why this is different from all the other we know how to do marketing blogs out there or something. So maybe they've found that more text works with them. Usually more text works with services that are more complicated or important, like software, legal services, and things like that. So in the text here, what are their main problem? What is their main what are their main problems, wants, and needs? So we just want to confirm that we understand where they're coming from. And so they know that we understand them, and we're suggesting this tool for their specific problem. So going back to this example, they're talking about how using marketing can start a movement of brand evangelists and people to help you grow and so forth. So they're saying, this is what you want to do. They're syncing with the visitor, getting in sync with them on what they want to accomplish or the problem, that somebody is facing and doesn't like. So we're communicating that you understand their situation. And, what points must they hear in order to act? Like, if you could boil it down to the top 3 concerns or things they would need to know in order to most likely act, what would they be? If you're selling some kind of service, do they need to make sure that they don't get charged for if it doesn't work out, or have some kind of limit on the charges? Or if this is some kind of product or software, is there some kind of guarantee for it? Or what are those main things they need to understand in order to make the decision to act on this page? And I should be clear and say that if your offer is about taking a bigger step, like talking with them or buying something or having a free trial of software, there are some concerns that you might not need to say at that point in time. So just make sure that the points you're making are relevant to the action you're asking them to take and not getting ahead of yourself. The next thing is we're just making it clear how taking this offer begins to help solve their problems. Sometimes that's not really clear. Sometimes it is. But if we need to further clarify that, this is where we do it. And if there's additional benefits that are quite notable, we can always probably come up with a list of 10 or 12 or maybe even 15 reasons somebody ought to take this offer. But that's kind of just too much. If they're not convinced by the first 3 biggest ones, they don't really need all 15. But if there are a few more that kind of help and support those top 3, this would be a good place to put those. And then the last question, how can you format this text to be a bit more interesting to look at? What HubSpot has done is just simply made certain things bold. Sometimes what people will do is they'll highlight text in like bright yellow of the key pieces. They use check boxes in a bulleted list to boom, 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 clearly communicate what's in here. It just makes it more digestible because most people won't read all this. They'll skip to, here, bold, and there, and that's about it. So less is really more when it comes to landing pages, as long as you are taking care of answering people's main concerns. We ought to have some kind of visual on this page. It could be a short video explaining things. Which, by the way, more people will watch that video than read the text. Or, more often than not, we usually have some kind of static, graphic. So this graphic should really help people further understand what the offer is. So if this is like a PDF download or a kit or something visual, take a photo of it, make it colorful, make it fun to look at. And that's what we tried to do with our own landing page for our toolkit. So here we have, a picture of the toolkit that you can get, and we've got our text with very clear, what you get out of it, along with bolded text, and we've got our form underneath. And sometimes, though, it's not, we don't really have, there may not be a visual to really put on the page that represents the thing that they're getting, if that makes sense. So in that case, the visual could be done in a way where it's a background image. It kind of sets a mood for it or something. But the image here doesn't really represent what we're getting so much. It's just kind of a nice visual environment that we're in that does make the page much better than if this was, can you imagine if this was a solid color up here? It would look pretty boring because it's just text and lines. Then what we do is we back it up with credibility, usually near the form, because that tends to be where this stuff is. So it's maybe people get used to that. I'm not really sure, but you generally don't put the credibility stuff before the other stuff. But credibility could be like, who else says this is great, or who else has benefited from this? After you know what it is, then you can understand how somebody else has benefited. So it could be testimonials. It could be some kind of credential of little logos of awards, or as seen on, or accredited, or associations, things like that make you feel more legit without diving in and doing a background research on you than your competitors. Sometimes what I've seen is they'll actually combine a testimonial with the headline or text, because the testimonial explains these points that we're talking about in the text, which is even better because then you've got a third party saying they're communicating the points we have to communicate, and they're saying that it worked great for them. And so, hey, if somebody else says something good about you, that's much better than you saying something good about yourself. Okay, and then the last item, the form here. Now, what we want to do is title the form to be the action that they're taking. So let's go back to this example here. Their form, for example, is Get It Now. In the heading, we understand the benefit, and then we get introduced to what it is that we would be getting, and then the form is, get it now. It not only is it clear that we're not doing something else, like subscribing or contacting for an estimate or something, but it's actually a motivating thing to just be clear about what the form is. And then again, down with the button, they have it the same as the title, which is fine, but again, the button reinforces what you're doing rather than submit, which people might think different things about that word. It's just kind of a generic word or whatever. It doesn't really help anything the way it's worded. So we might as well change the wording to be more motivating, and that's what this example has done here. Same thing with our toolkit. We've got Get It Now. And then also with our bigger step offer of requesting a free strategy session, we have, schedule your session and request there as the form. When it comes to fields, form fields, keep it minimal. Really don't ask for more than what is required to get what they're getting. And I guess, so oftentimes you come into landing pages that have a lot of extra fields and you're kind of like, really? Why do you really need that? I guess I'm okay giving my name and my email if I'll get more cool stuff like this thing I want right now, but why do you need, how much I earn or my business sector or my title and my on and on? So really keep it minimal, and if you really need an additional field, put it in there, but let's just make it minimal. That's going to get more people to fill it out. If you have something that you're going to stay in touch with them with, like some kind of email newsletter or something like that, could even be, subscribing to your LinkedIn or your Facebook page or something, if that's appropriate for your business. This is a great place to say, well, by the way, you can opt in for that and here's what you'll get. Or what you can say also is, on the form, and we'll keep you informed once a month on the latest whatever. And so then the form serves as not only the form to get the offer, but also it subscribes them to whatever emailing list you have so that you can stay in touch with them for later. Because not everybody's going to act right away. Some people may fill out the form and not do anything for months, and then if you stayed in touch with them, maybe they would have, turned over a few months later. When it comes to the button, make it big, bold color, make it stand out. And oftentimes you can even make it an off color from what goes with your site so much. So if your site's all orange, make the color down there green or a new kind of orange that's not already on your site. And while it may look odd from a designer's point of view, it's been proven that through tests that it just is more noticeable. And people recognize patterns in design as well. And so if there's something odd sticking out, but doesn't look bad, it just is really different. And why is that there? It just tends to help us focus on it and think about it for a few more seconds. Also, when it comes to your forms, put a little bit of text on there to help it be clear what's going to happen next. If this was about downloading something, that would be clear because it would say download and get it now. But if it's a different kind of action where somebody might not really know, well, what's going to happen next? Somebody's going to send me something. Just make sure it's clear what's going to happen next. And that's going to make them more comfortable and not get worried as to, well, did it go through or stuff like that. Plus, it helps them see that you really care about them knowing and being in sync with what you're doing and that you want to serve them better. The last thing I want to leave you with is when you put this together, spend some quality time on it, but don't spend too much time on it. It's probably better to get it out there and test it, rather than overthink it and tweak and tweak and tweak. Just get it out there, make it pretty good, have a way to test how many people go there and fill out the form, and give it a decent amount of time, which could be a month or maybe 2 or 3 months, and then come back and measure it and decide how you're going to evolve it after that point. And you're going to have an awesome test here and learn something and be a few steps closer to making your website a real contributor in growing the business. Thank you very much.